'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring except me, who got done wrapping his kids' presents and wanted to go ahead and talk to you about the Blazers game because people demanded it. We'll talk big win over the Blazers, the Jeff Green injury. We'll preview Christmas in case you're listening to this before the game on Christmas Day. The Nuggets are suddenly rolling. This is Locked On Nuggets, Christmas edition.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy holidays and welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for making this your first listen every day, including, I guess, Christmas Day. If you're listening to this on Christmas Day, as I'm recording this on Christmas Eve, glad to have you guys with us. The chat is bumping. I can't believe the chat is bumping on Christmas Eve, but the chat is bumping on Christmas Eve. Absolutely incredible. Folks like Nino and Robert's in here and Danny's in here. Hurricane's in here making me uncomfortable. Senny's in here. Vinny's in here. So many folks hanging out on a Christmas Eve night. I hope that everyone, if you celebrate, is having a wonderful Christmas Eve. If you don't celebrate, I hope you're having a wonderful Saturday night because that's what this is. It was funny. I wanted to go ahead and do a show. I was planning on doing a show and I was like, well, maybe we'll see. I don't know if anybody's going to be there. And then somebody tweeted at me and was like, oh, I'm sad that there's actually not a show today. And I was like, all right, well, I guess we're doing it. I guess we're okay. So we're doing this. That's where we're at with this. So on today's show, going to talk about the win over the Blazers and all sorts of interesting things that came out of that. A phenomenal performance from Jamal Murray and a bounce back, his comments post-game. The Nuggets getting their defense together and playing a lot better consistently, defensively especially, and how that trends. There's also a Jeff Green injury we got to talk about, what that means for the rotation. And in the final segment, we'll do a little bit on the game on Sunday, just to get you set for the big Sunday night Christmas Day game between the Denver Nuggets and the Phoenix Suns. So glad to have you guys on board. Want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, let's go ahead and get into it. So let's start with the Blazers game. First off, I want to just get this out the way. It is hilarious. It is objectively hilarious. And I commented this to Adam when we were at the arena. I said, Adam, you realize that 10 days ago we did a show called What's Wrong with the Nuggets? And now they're the number one team in the Western Conference, and they have back-to-back wins versus quality opponents. Just hilarious stuff. Just really funny. And I also commented to Ryan Blackburn, whose show Pickaxe and Roll you should check out. I commented to him after the game. I was like, you know what? We really we do these podcasts every day and we document the season and we bring you content every day for you to listen to. And that's great. But really, if we were going to do this, if you really want to take the NBA season, you shouldn't be able to comment on game by game. You should have to wait 10 games, right? And we would have bad spots in there. It's just that it's really funny how many times I've done this show with Adam and we felt like the sky was falling. And you're just you get to 2 months later and you're like, remember that time when we thought the sky was falling? And it's not that the sky wasn't necessarily not falling. It's just, you just keep going. And you find opportunities. So the Nuggets get the win versus the Blazers on Friday night in a very cold arena. I think they accidentally turned the air conditioning on. We had cold air blowing down on top of us at the media section. Poor Jenna Garcia from Stiffs was just absolutely freezing. Nuggets win 120-107 because we weren't the only ones cold that night, as the Portland Trailblazers shot just 45% from the field and 9 of 35 from three-point range. Meanwhile, Jamal Murray, after 4 days rest, comes back, and this is what he drops. 25 points, 8 rebounds, 12 assists, 2 steals, plus 20 in 39 minutes. He plays 39 minutes in the first game back. Now, first question is, why did he play 39 minutes? Don't have a good one for that. I think that in part, there was a feeling from Jamal that he wanted to go ahead and test what his body can do after the layoff. I think they're experimenting a little bit with what Jamal can do. And that meant him trying to play through the soreness when he last played and then taking a few days off and then seeing what happens here. After the game, Jamal was a little surly, a little saucy, as he sometimes is wont to be. And one of the things that he kind of commented on was I know that I'm going to have ups and downs, but it's you guys that need to understand it. They need to understand, oh, he's shooting this or whatever. I don't. I feel like the media has been pretty understanding, at least locally, of Jamal's struggles. We've talked on the show about Jamal's struggles because if a guy struggles in a basketball game, you kind of got to talk about that, right? And everything is laced with, well, yeah, but he's coming back from the injury for sure. But like it is in the playoffs, like Jason Tatum had a torn wrist, but you go out there, we assess what you did. And I'll tell you, I assess what Jamal did on Friday night as just an absolute ass kicking. He was phenomenal. Hitting tough shots, creating great looks. The 12 assists were not like he was in better control of the offense than we've really seen him since he got back. He was absolutely terrific. He played great defense, honestly. Like there was a lot of people freaking out about how much he was on Dame. He did a really good job on Dame. Dame got loose because Dame is going to get loose. The Nuggets did a phenomenal job on Damian Lillard in that game. The shots that Dame hit are the shots that you're going to have to live with from Damian Lillard, who is one of the top 5 best point guards in the NBA. Like that's just who Dame is. He's incredible. He remains incredible. The rumors of Dame's demise have been greatly exaggerated, but I thought Jamal held his own. And really in that fourth quarter, in the second half, when they really kind of got separation, Jamal, Bruce Brown, and KCP all got really up into Dame. The Nuggets game plan on Dame as kind of a transition was really interesting. Malone has talked a lot about this, that one of their big benefits is the ability to throw different defenders at primary guys, right? And you saw a lot of this in that Blazers game. So Aaron Gordon matches up with him early, and then they have to cross match, and that gave them some problems defensively, especially in the second quarter, actually, because the Nuggets or the Blazers were then getting like Jamal on Nurkic. He actually forced a miss there, which was embarrassing for Nurk. But like they were forcing different things out of in transition that were making things kind of awkward. But then, like in the second half, they move Aaron off and they put KCP on him, and then it's Bruce Brown, and then Jamal closes on him and does a really good job. And it really is kind of evidence of, I'll say this for all of the comment, and this is important for this show in particular. Two things have been evident to me over the last couple of games since the Nuggets kind of turned around their defense. And if you are curious about what their defense has actually looked like statistically, and if it matches the eye test, it does. In their last 5 games, which it spans the last 2 weeks, the Denver Nuggets are 10th in defense in the NBA in non-garbage time per clean the glass. That's excellent. They have been the kind of defense that they want it to be, and that's the number's only going to get better because it really honestly wasn't that good in the first 1 or 2 games of that set. But one thing we've seen is they've really on this homestand been able to expand their approach in multiple ways. They're not just showing one thing; they're showing multiple looks in scheme with multiple defenders. So the positional versatility that we talked about so much in preseason absolutely made its way into this game, where they show on Dame. They drop on Dame. And Dame hit a very clean look coming out. Like the key with Dame is that Dame recognizes drop coverage very quickly. Like he's always looking up to see where that big is. And if that big's not at the level of the screen and they're not switching, then Dame knows immediately, come off that pick, rise and fire, right? If the big steps up, he's now rejecting that screen. But they threw enough different looks at him with better defenders like KCP and Bruce Brown and Aaron Gordon to get him a little off kilter. And again, Dame had a great game because that's what Damian Lillard does, right? Like this is just Jamal commented this after the game, just like Christian Brown talked about with Ja Morant, right? Like, look, you look at the numbers and it's Dame was 10 of 22 for 34 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists. Dame was amazing. But what you want to do is you want to try and get the offense uncomfortable. And this is the big difference that we've seen from the Nuggets defensively in the last few games. Their opponents are uncomfortable. The Hornets were uncomfortable. The Grizzlies were uncomfortable. The Blazers were uncomfortable, especially in that second half. Second quarter was bad. They just were letting them walk into whatever. The Nuggets definitely did not jump on them the way they jumped on Memphis. The Nuggets eased into this game. But they got enough positive things for them to come out ahead. A couple other notes before we go take a break, and we'll talk about the Jeff Green injury. Anthony Simons was 1 of 10 from 3 in this game. That's probably not that's where the Blazers are able to say that's shooting luck. In any sort of loss, you're probably going to be able to point to things where you're like, that's shooting luck. That's just how the regular season goes. And that's how basketball goes. Playoff games are decided by that kind of stuff. There were things that were very fortunate for Denver. like Anthony Simons going 1 of 10. I would argue that in the Memphis game, they had pretty good shooting luck and they got a great whistle. In this one, they obviously, when you look at the free throw disparity, it wound up being even. Both sides felt like they got bad whistles in that game. It was really kind of funny. Like Dame was grifting free throws, and there was a couple that obviously Blazers fans were really mad about. So, I think overall kind of evened out. The other thing that obviously I need to talk about, Jamal was fantastic and the defense was really good. How about Michael Porter Jr., who comes back, goes for 18 points, 7 to 13 shooting, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, is only a +1 because he played with a lineup that didn't do well in the second quarter. MPJ was great. Effort was good. He gave out a 4-point play on the closeout to the corner that was ruled a flagrant, but they missed a free throw and then turned it over on an offensive screen. So it was only a 4-point play. It could have been like a 7-point play. Actually, I guess it was only a 3-point play because he hit the free no. Yeah, it was a flagrant, so he missed that free throw. So only a 3-point play. What's interesting though, that was the only possession where MPJ really screwed up defensively that I saw. I haven't gone back and done the tape because I've been doing Christmas stuff. But like very few elements of guys being mad at MPJ and pointing. Very few elements of Joker trying to get MPJ to go where he needs to go. MPJ was locked in and looked comfortable in that game. Like MPJ looked like an NBA player, and he looked like a really good one. The other one, I think, is the rebounding was, to me, felt very big in this game. And like they missed shots, so that's going to be part of it. Right. And you look at the offensive rebounds, and the Nuggets only had 4 offensive rebounds to 13 for the Blazers, because a lot of those were like random ones that guys grabbed, like long rebounds that they were able to snag. Josh Hart got 2 of those. Eubanks got 2 of those on misses of, I think, of his own. But the Nuggets feel so big on the interior with AG and MPJ and Jokic. Like this was a game that really stood out to me, whereas like the Blazers look tiny next to Denver on the interior. And so like when they're passing on the interior and they're making these things happen, it's really tough because not only is their offense smart and sharp and punishes you, it's also huge. Like you had the swing that Jokic cuts to the corner of the free throw line and then whip pass underneath for the bucket. Like there's just like a lot of instances in this game where the Nuggets looked like the kind of big, tall team that they wanted to be. Joker was good in this game, especially in that fourth quarter when after Nurkic fouls out. The guy cannot stay on the floor versus Nikola. After he fouls out with like 3 straight fouls, Jamal misses a layup attempt at a pick and roll versus Eubanks. Eubanks defended it very well. The next like 7 plays down, I think 5 of them were feeds to Jokic on the interior, and there just wasn't anything they could do, and it was over. Like, Eubanks got toasted, and then they're like, all right, we're going to take him out and put Jeremy Grant in. Like, there wasn't, again, like the Blazers don't have a backup big to go against Jokic, just like they didn't in the playoff series. If Nurk can't stay on the floor, then they're really kind of toast. So good minutes from them. Also good minutes from the bench. The bench had a really good night, including Zeke Naji, who's going to play a bigger role now that Jeff Green's out for at least a month. We'll talk about that as well as what that means for the rotation. We'll keep talking about the Blazers win, and we'll clear up some more thing about what we think the rotation is going to look like and where the bench is headed. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, I need to tell you a message from the NHTSA. You're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks. A few becomes a few too many. And as the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think of calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. You make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds that you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, or you lose your license, you lose your job, total your car, you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risk of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets, thanks for joining us and making this part of your day, your Christmas day, if you celebrate. Appreciate that. It's funny. I'm a happy holidays guy, and people will kind of roll their eyes or whatever. I had a coworker that I work with over at Action that I like. Just we were doing a thing on a video call, and I said like, "Happy holidays, guys. Hope you have whatever." And like, I got a message that was just like, "Hey, I'm Jewish. Really appreciate you saying Happy Holidays. Like, it's a nice inclusive thing." So, not that I don't think it's wrong to say Merry Christmas because I think the spirit, so to speak, of it is really great. But it's just like one of the things I like about the holidays is it really should feel like it's for everybody, and that's what I like about it, at least in our culture here stateside. Um, okay, let's talk about the bench. So Jeff Green suffers a fractured hand, okay, and a sprained finger and a fractured hand, so he's going to miss a month. Here's the bad news, and here's the good news. The bad news is you don't get any more Uncle Jeff dunks because he's been having some absolutely incredible yams over the last couple of weeks. No, none of those for a solid month. The other bad news is this is going to apply more pressure on some of the starters because they will have to fill some of those minutes. Okay, like there will be some accounting for Jeff's minutes with the starters, and this starts that downward trend that I've talked about where when Will had to fill in because all the wings were out last season, that ground Barton into absolute dirt. It just absolutely ground him into dirt. And what was funny too is Malone talked about how Aaron Gordon actually told him last season, like he was really ground down. Like Aaron was great last season, but he was really, really ground down. The good news is, as Danny says and John E says in the comments, Zeke minutes and Christian Brown minutes. You're going to get more minutes. You're going to get more minutes from the guys that everybody wants to see, which is Zeke Naji, who once again got run in the Portland game, and Christian Brown, because Zeke can play 4. Like he would probably be the backup 4. I think for now the Vlatko thing is done. I think for now the Vlatko thing is done because he didn't play in the last game, and that makes you think he moves. When Jeff has played the 3, those are obviously minutes that now go to Christian Brown. And like I will say this continuously, this is a lot of how Malone looks at the regular season. One of the reasons that Malone I don't think worries as much about getting guys minutes is he knows that he's going to get a chance to play them because guys are going to get hurt, right? Like you're gonna find time to play those guys. CT3 says, "What about MPJ Zeke?" Because CT3 is so excited about as much Zeke Najee as possible. Zeke's Malone credited Zeke a lot. I want to say that Malone's been really positive towards Zeke in his pressers the last couple of days. So like those of you that think that he hates him, like he's been really positive about him. He has some switches on Anthony Simons that were really good and gave good contests. Zeke Najee in isolation this season is averaging, it's 26 possessions, which is, I don't know if you know this, that's not a lot, but on the 26 possessions where he's guarded in isolation, he's allowing 0.6 points per possession. That's absolutely phenomenal. That's the kind of elite defense that Adam Mares has constantly said that Zeke Najee is capable of. I will tell you that once again, I thought that the first stint for Zeke was very good, and the second stint was only okay. Zeke's not jumping out like doing a whole lot on the box score, and that's okay. He doesn't necessarily need to, right? He was a plus minus of 5. They won the minutes. They've won the minutes in the Zeke Najee minutes the last couple of games, and that's all you really need, right? Like if we're gonna take the plus minus stuff as seriously as I do, which is not an indicator of how guys play, but an indicator of what works and what does not. In the very limited sample that we have, the Zeke Najee minutes are working right now. So we'll see if Malone sticks with that or if he goes in a different direction. Danny says one good stint and one just okay stint is a huge positive. I would agree. Again, like a lot of this just comes down to like my ideal. Somebody asked me, Ryan asked me, he was like, "What's your ideal bench unit? Like, what does your ideal bench unit look like? If you only have one starter on the floor?" And a lot of mine is like Christian Brown, Zeke Najee, DeAndre Jordan. That's been mine. Because I think Jeff is Jeff, and Jeff does the Jeff things, and Jeff is valuable for the things that Jeff Green does. That's why he was brought to this team, and he's important, especially if you need him. It's very important to have Jeff Green available if you need Jeff Green. However, I do think that having a spacer who can switch in Zeke Najee alongside someone who can actually set a screen would be very good for the offense. I think like a Jamal Murray, Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, Zeke Najee, DeAndre Jordan lineup would probably do very well. Probably the same with Bones, to be quite honest with you. So, Firepower says the second unit needs Jeff Green. I think Jeff's a net positive. I've been kind of more towards Jeff may be the guy that needs to get reduced in his role anyway, mostly from the standpoint of he is the guy that I think you can take a lot of what he does and you can upgrade some of it. So again, this gets into like the biggest reason that I like DeAndre Jordan on the floor is that you have to create space for your point guard. Like you need to create space for your point guard for that unit to function so that you're not having dribble, 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 3 turnarounds, wild shot that sometimes turns into a turnover that goes the other way. No one else on the second unit can screen. No one can screen effectively. Nobody, right? And the things that Jeff does, I think are valuable, but I also don't think that they're necessarily essential to making that second unit work. The second unit, I will note, by the way, in these last couple of games, right? If you want to look at it. So this is what's really funny because I looked this up. This is the last 3 games. Again, this is tiny sample and I'm fine if you just want to like chuck this. That's fine. No problem with that. If you don't want to chuck it and you want to see like, okay, how does that actually look like? Here's what's really funny. With Zeke Nnaji on the floor, they have an 87.8 offensive rating, which would be like the lowest in NBA history. It is absolutely abysmal in the 23 minutes he's played across the last 3 games. Like they can't score at all, but they've held opponents to 74 points per 100 possessions. So it's like they've absolutely shut down everybody in those minutes. Like that's what's happened. And whether that's Memphis guys missing shots or Zeke's amazing defense, we won't know, but that's what I think is kind of interesting. I'm very curious to see what the offense is going to look like versus a capable bench unit. I don't know if that's tomorrow because I don't think that the Suns bench unit, like that's a unit that Suns fans themselves are very stressed out about, is the bench unit. This is going to be very much like a very stoppable force meets an extremely movable object when the bench units collide on Sunday night in the Christmas Day game. 55555-ish says, without Jeff, the bench unit gets way younger as well. Who will fill the leadership void? You know, I think honestly a lot of this is just like the starters. So like KCP can play if he needs to. I don't know necessarily that they need somebody on the floor because I don't think like Jeff Green is not a floor general. Like that's not what he does. He gives advice and he's savvy, but he's not like a floor general. Zeke Nnaji's perimeter defense is Bam out of bio level. All right, let's tamp it down. Like come back down to orbit, Nino. Let's chill. So anyway, I don't know that Jeff Green necessarily is needed for organizing the offense or for veteran leadership. If they get rattled, because I'll say this too, like when they've gotten rattled, they give up these huge runs. It's not like Jeff like stops that. Like we used to call Monte Morris the tourniquet because he would stop the bleeding. They need a guy like that, and they don't have it right now. Honestly, the biggest thing that they need to do, the bench unit needs 2 things. It needs 2 things right now. Let's assume for this time being Zeke at 5, okay? Because I think based on Malone's comments after the last game, and again, he may just play DeAndre Jordan tomorrow. Like, do not be surprised if it's just a DeAndre Jordan game. Zeke's had 2 of these. They're facing Bismack Biyombo off the bench. It might be DeAndre Ayton. You might just want the size. Like, be prepared for that, okay? But he's talked a lot about how much he likes the switching that Zeke provides them at the 5. What they need to figure out is Bones' minutes and the Bones-Bruce minutes. Because, like, what's happening is Bones is like the lead ball handler, and yet the offense has no structure, and Bruce Brown is trying to connect an offense that has no structure, and that makes him essentially useless. Like, we've seen Bruce be very successful when he was point guard next to Nikola, obviously, but also like with Christian Brown. So like the question is just like, you need to have some sort of mechanism to where you can run a functional offense that makes like, you need to have a functional offense that allows Bruce Brown to do the things he's good at and Christian Brown to do the things he's good at. Okay. And like Christian will make things happen. This is why I've been consistent. The only guy that I've said that needs to play of the young dudes, I'm like, no. Like he needs to play is Christian Brown. And he didn't play versus the Blazers, because, and this is something to like to talk about briefly before we go to break, there's not room in the rotation fully healthy, right? Jeff Green's out, so now there's room. So now we're going to see Christian Brown in the next game. And like Malone said after the game that he went to Christian Brown after this game, the Blazers game. He went to Christian Brown and put his arm around him and said, "You didn't do anything wrong. Like, this is just how it goes when you're a rookie in the NBA. You will have another opportunity. Stay ready, but you are doing all the right things," which is like good reinforcement. And that's going to be frustrating for Christian because Christian wants to play like everybody in the league wants to play. But if you're going to play MPJ the number of minutes that you want to play MPJ, and you're going to play Jeff Green, and you're going to play Zeke Naji, and you're going to play Bruce Brown, there's not minutes for Christian Brown. There has to be a sacrifice somewhere, and fans aren't going to like that, but there needs to be like some sort of consideration of like that there's only so many that you can kind of play it. So I don't understand what people are. Firepower says run the second unit through Vlatko as a pseudo Jokic. He's like, I'm kidding, or am I? Guys, I need to really stress. Go back and look at what the Vlatko minutes have looked like the last couple of games. I'm not saying the jig is up, but like it's concerning. It has not been good. Justin says DNVR was praising Bones as shooting less in the last game and how mature that was. What are your thoughts on that? If he's not scoring, why is he on the floor? Is there a bench without Bones? I mean, yeah, there is. We've seen it. Like, I'm gonna be real with you. Like, look, again, I'm gonna state my mission statement on this as always. Always, Bones Highland needs to play. He needs to play better. Okay. So if you ask me, would the bench right now be better with Ish Smith than Bones? My answer is yes, because I know that Ish Smith can make that bench unit look like a capable, normal NBA offense. It will look like a professional NBA offense. Okay. That doesn't mean that that's what's best for the team, because the best thing for the team is for Bones' ability to hit Steph Curry shots and shoot 45% from three or whatever, for that to hit teams with waves of energy, and for his athleticism and his skill level, which is higher than Ish's, to carry the team forward. Right. So like, that's kind of the thing. Now, if the question becomes like, okay, well, what about Bruce Brown? Couldn't Bruce Brown do that? And isn't he kind of better than both? No, because Bruce doesn't have the on-ball creation that Bones does. Like, Bones can get to his shots. My problem is that very often does he do anything but get to his shots. And so like those things are the complicated things that are kind of there. So you have to kind of balance a lot of those things, and you just like, he's got to keep playing. You kind of got to kind of deal with it. I think it's funny that Christian, Bones, and Zeke, the three guys that Nuggets Twitter loves the most, are all in very different places. Bones Highland is in a position where the bloom is kind of coming off, but he needs to play because of the talent and the capability and making the most of the asset. And he just needs to play better. Christian Brown's playing great, but there's simply not going to be enough minutes for it. Like, no matter how much you want it, there's not going to be enough minutes. And I don't know how else like you're going to want to will this into existence. And I just need you to be prepared that when fully healthy, that may not be a thing. I think there are matchups. I think if they're down, if they go down 1-2 in a series, which is possible and still possible for them to win, that you can turn to Christian Brown and he can provide a spark and help turn things around. And then fans will say, well, he should have started from the beginning, which is ludicrous. Like, you go in with the game plan, right? I think Christian will play in the playoffs. I think he's ready for that. I honestly think he's got the mindset. Christian still is going to make mistakes. Like, there's a lot being made of Christian when it's like, Christian is not like Christian's just, he's solid. He's good. He does a lot of good things, but there's gotta be some patience there. And then there's Zeke, who's honestly, it's like he needs to play as mostly it can't get worse, and they need to evaluate if this could work. It's worked for 2 games on the homestand versus opponents who played badly. That may be because Zeke contributed to that, right? Like, Zeke I am open to being wrong, and that Zeke Naji is going to be like a key weapon for the Nuggets down the last 60 games of this season, right? Or 50 games of the season. We'll see what happens. But it's very interesting that all 3 of those guys are in very different roles. Let's take a break and we'll come back. 5 Power says, what do you see happening tomorrow night? And that's, as you're listening, is probably tonight versus the Phoenix Suns. We'll talk about that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. If your New Year's goals are to manage your budget better and save money, you need Rocket Money. Say goodbye to last year's outdated, disorganized methods of managing your money and say hello to Rocket Money, the better way to hack your finances in 2023. Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Over 80% of people have subscriptions they forgot about, like that streaming service you bought just that one show on, or that free trial you never even used. Rocket Money will quickly and easily identify your subscriptions for you so you can stop paying for the ones you want. Rocket Money makes canceling subscriptions as easy as a click of a button. Simply find the subscription you don't want and press cancel, and Rocket Money will cancel it for you. No more long hold times with customer service or tedious emailing back and forth. Over 3 million people have used Rocket Money, saving the average person up to $720 a year. I had this because I was still subscribed to AMC Plus because of Better Call Saul. And like, I don't watch anything on AMC now that Better Call Saul's done. I may subscribe in the future, but there's no reason for me to have it right now. And this is how I wound up finding that something where I could save a little bit of money on. Stop throwing your money away, cancel unwanted subscriptions, and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/lockedonnba. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedonnba. rocketmoney.com/lockedonnba. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets, thanks for joining us and making this part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us on a Sunday. If you're listening to this on Christmas Day while you're making dinner or hanging out with the family while they think that you're listening or whatever you're doing, appreciate you guys being along for the ride. And I appreciate how many folks are hanging out with us in the chat here on Christmas Eve. So the Nuggets play the Phoenix Suns on Sunday night. Interesting. I'm just gonna let's instead of thinking about this from a betting perspective, let's use the term market, right? So the market on this game in the betting sense was really funny. This opened 2.5. It got bet up on Saturday afternoon. I saw it at 4.5. It's back to 3.5. Booker's questionable for this game. I'm expecting him to play. I think that's why he didn't play the other night and they got absolutely destroyed by the Memphis Grizzlies, who were pretty pissed off about that Nuggets game. Like, they got Desmond Bane back, and Memphis is pissed. So they eradicated the Suns, who are just not ready to play. Chris Paul, interesting. He had a shoulder injury last week, and then he didn't miss any time for it. Kind of a weird kind of situation. Obviously, no Cam Johnson and no Jay Crowder for this game either for the Suns. No Jeff Green for the Nuggets. Jamal is technically questionable, but there's no expectation that he won't play. Everybody should be available for this game. My thoughts on this game are as such. So I think this is a dangerous one in that Phoenix is coming off an embarrassing loss. They've been on a really, they're in the crisis mode part of the season where there's a lot of questions about what is this team? Are they that good? Can they win a title? They had this situation the other night where they're feuding with each other again with DeAndre Ayton, all of those types of things. And usually when everybody is like, this team is blowing up, they're 3-7 in their last 10. They were number 1 in the Western Conference with a great win profile. Great win profile. They were beating the bad teams. They were hanging with the good teams. The point differential was good. It looked really good. They've got a new owner coming in, so the Sarver thing is going to get resolved. They're getting everybody back healthy. The Jay Crowder thing continues to be awkward and bad, but I think there's a pretty good chance that Phoenix puts a lot into this game, that this is an opportunity for them to make a statement on Christmas that they're still this is still the team that 2 years ago went to the finals, and that last year, whatever happened versus that Dallas series was an outlier, and they would have faced the Warriors in the conference finals and probably been favored. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Robert says, "Meh, Denver historically performs great on Christmas games." Yeah, good point. So one thing to keep in mind in this game, the Suns force the 4th most turnovers by their opponent, and they don't turn the ball over at all. So I don't mean to be reductive, but it's pretty simple. If the Nuggets don't turn the ball over, they're going to win this game. And if the Nuggets turn the ball over, they're going to lose this game. Okay? There are teams that they can turn the ball over against and still win. This is not one of them. If you give this Phoenix offense that kind of a boost, they're going to kill you. I'm going to be very curious to see what kind of approach Monty Williams and Chris Paul take into this game, right? Because you could just be like, we're going to run our stuff and do our thing and just kind of be the same team. And Chris has not looked like Chris this season. Chris has looked very much like, golden years might be the end of the road coming towards the end of the line, Chris Paul this year. With MPJ playing, I'm very curious to see if they target him and how he performs in that situation, given that his effort has been so much higher. I'll also say this, it's not just effort. When you're put into actions in pick and rolls or in post-ups, regardless of like whatever it is, when they're trying to leverage you, sometimes it's about where's your confidence level and what's your confidence level from your teammates. If you're over helping, we've talked about this before. If you're over helping because you don't think your teammate can hold, then you're going to give up quick pass, pump fake, flyby, drive. And that's once that happens, your defense is scrambling, right? If they trust MPJ and if he just puts the effort in, because here's part of the deal. Let's say that Chris Paul goes at him, okay? He forces the switch and he attacks MPJ over and over and over again. And MPJ tries and plays aggressive on him and picks up, 4 fouls in the first half, 3 fouls in the first half, whatever. That's not that bad because of their depth now. With Bruce Brown and Christian Brown able to play those minutes, you have a different dynamic, and that should enable MPJ to be more aggressive and confident. And if you play aggressive and confident on defense, that's going to make up for lack of technique and mobility a lot of the time. So I'm very curious to see what happens there. Also very curious to see how the Nuggets approach the pick and roll stuff. So 2 years in the bubble, no Jamal Murray. Jokic carrying an insane usage rate because he had to do absolutely everything. And Joker starts playing more drop. And in that series, it was absolutely maddening to watch them sink off of Chris Paul and be like, we're going to give you the 18-footer. And that quite honestly cannot happen. If the Nuggets play, I'll say this, you can switch up your coverage. And I'm actually fine if it's Chris Paul and a 1-5 pick and roll with DeAndre Ayton. If you switch Nikola Jokic onto Chris Paul, I'm fine with it. Okay. Chris is going to make him look dumb. Ja made Jokic look dumb the other night. He had 2 head fakes where Jokic was completely busted, but they also resulted in 0 points because one was a charge and one they contested on the inside and forced a miss. I think actually there was 3 of them, and the third one was Aaron Gordon made a block. You protect that weak side and you can do whatever you want on that perimeter because you have shut down all of the other options. Okay. You can play at the level and blitz Chris Paul and basically say, we're going to send 2 at Chris Paul and we're going to make Devin Booker play 4-on-3. Devin's going to win that matchup a lot of the time because Devin's great. Devin's a really good passer. Book's amazing. He's a really good passer, and he had 55 the other night, right? Like he had 70 in his career. Booker can absolutely torch you, and he will be looking to once again put up an MVP type of line. Like he will want to say, like, I'm the actual MVP. I should have won it last year. Okay. If he plays. That said, they have better personnel to withstand this kind of stuff if that happens. So to me, the answers are blitz Chris Paul and switch a healthy amount. And then with Devin Booker, it's the same stuff as with Dame and everybody else. Switch up the looks. It's Aaron Gordon, it's KCP, it's Bruce Brown. You switch up those and Christian Brown. Look, Christian's done well against all these other guys. Christian matches up very well physically in terms of body type with Devin Booker. Okay. Devin may foul him out. Again, you have the depth, so go for it. And you have that kind of ability to do those types of things. So 5 Power says, I would gamble and let CP3 try to beat me with 15 to 18 footers. I am telling you objectively, you cannot do that. Chris Paul, over the last 5 seasons, shoots 48% from those shots. That will absolutely not be tenable. Because he will make them at a high enough rate that you are absolutely going into a set defense versus Phoenix every single time, and you don't want that. You want to scramble them up a little bit. Ayton has given Jokic problems in the past, but the last time that they faced each other, Jokic got the better of him and has dominated him. Joker's Joker. Like, I don't know that Joker has admitted that Ayton gives him trouble. The other thing I'll say is that after Joker faces you 4 to 5 times, like, he gets better against you every single time. So if Nicole is in the right mind frame, we'll see where he's at based off of the Christmas spirit, then Joker can absolutely win that range. I like this from Robert Rodarte. Everyone else, I'm the MVP. Jokic. Sure, you can have my trophy if I can find it. Yeah. Hurricane says 48 from 18 feet is like a 96% offensive rating, right? So if you just do like the twos, right? Like you do, it's technically, if you're going to do that, it's 48. If you're shooting 48% from the field, right? The 40% times 2, that's 80, plus the 8 times 2, it's 16. So that's a 96 offensive rating. You're like, that's great. Here's the issue. Okay. There is a mental aspect of this that is really difficult to sustain. A guy killing you over and over and over again is disheartening. It is frustrating for coaches. It's frustrating for players. And you don't feel like you feel like this guy's absolutely cooking you. There's a mental part of it. This gets into the whole analytics thing, which is you can shoot worse from 3 and actually be more efficient. You don't have to shoot as well from 3 versus 2 because of the extra point. However, 48% is like Chris's average. It is entirely possible that Chris goes like 12 of 13 on these mid-rangers. If you keep letting him have it and he's in rhythm, he can absolutely have a night where he shoots 60%. And now you're talking about a 120 defensive rating. Daniel says CP3 is not going to make 5 threes to beat you. Force him to shoot it. So I think a lot of this just gets into like where you think Chris Paul is now versus where Chris Paul is for the entirety of his career. Chris is a 35% three-point shooter this season. I feel like if you play drop, he's going to step into those threes. This is the other thing. You saw the one versus that Dame hit. If you recall this, Dame in that game had the one Joker dropped. Dame comes off the screen, open. You give these guys 2 dribble threes, and they are going to knock them down at an absolutely ridiculous rate. So I get the idea that he's been hurt and he's not CP3 from 18-19. I still think you need to have a little bit of respect for Chris Paul. 5 Power says make him beat you. I got a better idea. They don't have Jay Crowder. They don't have Cam Johnson. Make anybody else beat you. Make DeAndre Ayton beat you. Make Landry Shamet beat you. Make Damian Lee beat you. Right? That would be my approach, because I do think that, especially with how the Nuggets defense is layered, there will be times when you will make one small mistake if you give him space, and he will still generate those open looks for others. That's because Chris Paul is one of the best passers the league has ever seen. So it's important, I think, to switch up a lot of the coverage on him anyway. So I like this from Snail. I don't know how you watch the Sun series and still want CP3 shooting those elbow jumpers. That shit was soul crushing. Yeah, like that's the thing, is it really makes you the balance between what those shots actually do efficiency wise and how they feel is marked, but you can't just ignore the feeling. You can't, because it does get in players' heads and it impacts them. Okay. So finally, I think that the only other thing is the Nuggets, if they crash the offensive glass, if they get second chance points in this game, that's another path for them to win. But the big thing is just going to be turnovers. Joker's got to be smart with the ball. Jamal's got to be smart with the ball. You cannot be sloppy in this game. Guys got to catch passes. You let this team with live ball, and that boosts them up enough to where they're going to make you absolutely pay. Phoenix in the last 2 weeks, they are 16th in offense, 21st in defense. This has been a bad team the last 2 weeks. Like, they're struggling right now. But this is also a game that they're going to get up for. It's Christmas. It's an opponent they beat in the playoffs. They're going to feel confident, and they're going to be motivated on multiple levels. If Denver brings it, like they have brought it the last couple of nights on this homestand, I think they can get this win, which would be huge for tiebreaker and a signal to the rest of the league that they're legit. The comments before are accurate. The Nuggets have had too many chances in these national spotlight games, screwed around, and had everybody going like, yep, no, still don't buy them. You got opportunity here. This is the last game on the biggest slate of the regular season. Make it count. Let's go wrap it up for Locked On Nuggets for Christmas Eve. Thanks for joining us. Love the fact that everybody was hanging out in the chat. I love you guys so much. That's amazing. Hope you guys have, if you celebrate, I hope you have a very safe, healthy, and happy Merry Christmas. Hope you guys get all the things that you want under the tree. Hope you guys see that look on the faces of the people that you gave gifts to, more importantly. Share that spirit of giving, share that spirit of, an assist makes two people happy, right? Take that attitude with you into Christmas and beyond into the new year. Hope you guys have a great night. I'll see you guys again on Monday with a recap of the Suns game as we get started for the post-Christmas stretch of schedule for the Denver Nuggets here on Locked On Nuggets.